Welcome to The Forgotten Oath, hosted by Donald Dunn, combat veteran, author of Echoes of War, The Silent Transition of a Soldier. This show is dedicated to every man and woman who raised their right hand and swore to defend this nation. But too often, after that service, the promises made by the government are forgotten. Here, we expose the truth behind the headlines, cut through the political noise, and hold leadership accountable for the treatment of our veterans and service members. No politics, no spin, just the hard conversations that need to be had. This is The Forgotten Oath.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm glad y'all are here. Hope you're doing well, man. Appreciate everybody that's been leaving feedback and commenting and liking. I'm glad to see it, and I hope it continues. This episode is going to be kind of similar to the last one. It's kind of like a part two. Some new things came out that I want to get into. So let's do it. So we all talked about the big, beautiful bill, right? And there is some beautiful things about it. And then there's some shakiness, right? And unfortunately, I think our VA system might be getting the shakiness. So it talked about how the VA is going to partner with HUD. It talked about the fact that we're going to do some stuff for homeless veterans, right? Wasn't any details, wasn't kind of, it just says, hey, we're going to give 1.8 billion, I think it was, to the VA to put just strictly towards housing veterans. And there is a program out there currently that does it. And there, I do know people that have gotten help on it, and there is a lot of red tape to it, but they can say that they have helped veterans with the program because it has. But now it's going to partner with a civilian agency, right? Works with the government, HUD, deals with low-income housing type stuff. So I think at the end of the day, we're going to put two programs together that is not exactly great, but does kind of help people. And I don't know that these two things are going to make a positive. It's kind of ironic, right? So there's even those questions before we even get into some news that I came across upon. If you have a program that's already not great, and then another agency comes in behind you and says, you need to lay off 83,000 positions. That's 83,000 people who will be looking for work in your neighborhood. It is a lot of people. Now, granted, it isn't maybe a lot in comparison, right? And let me break these numbers down for you. So the current workforce for the VA is 482,000 employees. It's a lot. Now, take away the 83,000. That leaves you with 399,000 positions. If you take that away, that brings you back down to 2019. I can tell you, since 2019, there has been improvements in the VA system. So, to say that, there's been improvements that necessarily the VA didn't participate in, though. Let me be clear about that. One of the big ones that I can think about, it happened last year. 2024, I don't remember the month, they made it to where any veteran that is having a mental health crisis can go to any hospital, tell them you're a veteran, and get up to like 30 days of inpatient care if needed, and like 6 months or a year of outpatient therapy through civilians, doctors, your choice, right? And they did that in hopes to get more people to ask for help because of the red tape and the problems that go behind the scenes of the VA. So it brings me back to my question. Is the problem the fact that we've got too many people? Or is the problem more so that the system is set up with so many checks and balances that the red tape becomes very tiresome? Either way, as a government, you chose to put people on ground in Vietnam. And let's just be honest, you didn't uphold the oath and the promises for those guys until your hand was forced. And it's still not great. It's way too late. However, at the end of the day, we go into a new era. So you chose to put people on ground. And for whatever reasons, your strategies, your decision-making process turned it into a 20-year war that I pray the government didn't expect. Because if you did, then that tells me that you had other underlying issues than just dealing with terrorists and the Taliban. However, we learned real quick that this was not going to be an easy war. Anybody on ground knew that. It didn't take long. Especially if you were on the special operations side, because you were put in front of the war. So we took and put a leading department of our force that is the smallest, most elite, but smallest, in a country and said, I want you to get rid of Osama. And then we discovered there's no borders. These people roam in and out of Pakistan and Syria and all over the place just by walking across. There is no stopping them. Now, granted, we can't do that, but they can. And so maybe part of that is what caused the war to be done the way it was. However, at the end of the day, the first thing we should have done was secure the borders, and we didn't do that. Therefore, you took it into a 20-year war. So I personally know veterans that came in, volunteered, and knew what they were going to do, and spent a 20-year career fighting the same war. Insane. Absolutely insane. Now, let's talk a little bit about what that means. That means in a force that has already been reduced prior to 9/11, we are now putting ourselves into a reactionary situation versus a proactive situation. So now we're ramping up and recruiting anybody and everybody. Now, granted, it was the easiest time for the veterans to be able to get enlisted. The recruiters had no problems. There was lines out the door. So people knew what they were getting into. They didn't know what it was going to be. They thought they knew. And they knew what the ultimate cost could be, right? And they were also told what they're going to get. Now, I'm not here to tell you that the government didn't give you what they promised. However, it's kind of like the deal with the devil. It's never as good as it seems. And it may be what he said, but it wasn't what you expected. And that is where the VA system is. We took and told soldiers to deploy over and over and over and over. I personally did 68 months in deployments in a 20-year career. That's over 5 years. Over 20% of my career was spent in deployment. So, with that being said, I have to ask, what did you think was going to happen? It wears on you. Now, granted, that was Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan. Bosnia was a peacekeeping mission. There was still some things going on, but it was not Iraq and Afghanistan. So we can take those months away. It wasn't considered a hostile area. So I'm down to 59 months of Iraq and Afghanistan. Just under 20% of my life, or my career. So that means I deployed over and over and over. And I got to see multiple people, friends, not make it back. And I got to deal with the adrenaline 1 minute and the boredom the next. And your emotions constantly going high, low, you know. And then put on a smile and a joke about it, because I can't let anybody know that I was scared or I was broken. And those are the problems that are not being addressed. So maybe the government knew what was going to happen. Maybe they did know it was going to be a 20-year war. Maybe they did know that there was going to be wear and tear on the soldiers and our forces. But they did nothing to prepare the VA for it. All right. Now, granted, you also are dealing with two separate generations that was in this war. And you cannot do that either. All right. The same way you reach the Vietnam era veterans is not the same way you're going to be able to reach me. Okay. Just like now, after I retired in 2014. The war went on for over another 6 years. After that, that's a different generation than me. You're not going to reach them, and a lot of them are just now starting to retire, and so forth. And the VA is starting to see those problems as well. Okay, so back to these news: 83,000 people are going to be laid off, but we said we're also going to fix the homelessness. All right. So we dedicated $1.8 billion to partner the VA with the HUD to fix the homelessness with the veterans. Does that include programs like getting their ID and their documents, birth certificates, high school diplomas, GEDs, whatever, any of those types of things? Because, again, we've spent the last several years treating symptoms, not treating the root causes. All right. You can house a veteran, but if you don't deal with the mental health problems behind it, you didn't fix it. Now, I say this because I want them to succeed. And I have no doubts that somebody way smarter than me is talking about this. But $1.8 billion is going to go fast. And if we do not fix those problems, if that 1.8 billion only builds homes and red tape, then it's a waste of money. And that's what I fear. I fear this will be another half valid attempt to fix the problem. It doesn't talk anywhere in there about funding that's going to go to the states to help the states deal with their individual veteran crises. The majority of the homeless, we all know, is Texas, Florida, California. Obviously, climate reasons, right? If I was homeless, I would not want to live in Colorado. The winter sucks. So now on top of that, your homeless population is living in the most expensive areas, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be replanted. I mean, we replanted immigrants. I mean, they crossed in Texas, they ended up in New York, free flights, free everything. All right. And people are outraged that we didn't do enough for them and that they're being deported now. And we even at one point allegedly emptied out hotels that the VA was renting for homeless veterans to put immigrants in. Again, allegedly. I don't have any proof. I wasn't standing there at the exit doors. But it was pretty well mainstream news. So what I'm saying here is you have to focus on the root causes, not just deal with the individual stuff. All right? If you don't deal with why they're homeless and then the foundation that get them onto so that they can get a job, you don't give them the treatments that's needed to bring them back into a civil mindset. All right? Anger management courses, patience. I just, there's so many things that you get used to from being deployed. And you still want to hold on to that lifestyle because it's easy. You know, you wake up, you do your job, you stay alive, wash, rinse, repeat. Okay. There is no dealing with individuals and bureaucracy and all that stuff. It's a simple life. Not a good one, but a simple life. All right. Not that I'm saying it's easy to accomplish it. I'm just saying that is one of the reasons why the veteran community always says that they would go back. Because life was simpler. And it was pretty easy the way you dealt with people. So everything becomes confusing. And I'm going to throw one last little bit in here, right? It is so confusing that even the government said, look, we're going to lay off 83,000 people, but we don't know how to do it. Here's $700,000 given to a contract to a third-party company to just eliminate 83,000 positions. That tells me already that there needs to be better planning in this. Okay? I'm not arguing that you won't save money in the long run because the salaries of 83,000 is going to be way higher than 700,000. That's, you know, for those people that want to make that argument, you are right. And I ain't going to argue that the track record for successfully accomplishing missions isn't so hot on the government side. All right. But is that contracting company considering what positions and how it's going to affect the veteran community at a root cause basis? And that's where I would argue no. Take a moment to get involved in your communities. Reach out to your congressmen, your senators, and just ask, what are we doing as a community for our veteran community? Are we getting a piece of that 1.8 to help employ, house, treat? If those things are not the case, then take the power back to we the people and vote for the people that are going to help the things that are important to you. And that's all I look at. I don't look at parties. I don't look at what I think they're going to do. They're all corrupt. To that much power, everybody would be corrupt. I get it. People say, not me, I would be that guy. Bullcrap. At the end of the day, People are either going to corrupt you or trick you into doing corrupt shit. It's that simple. And that's the reason why it doesn't matter the party. It doesn't matter Republican, Democrat, Independent. Power, historically, will ruin a person. So what you have to do is you have to focus your voting to the things that are important to you. And then hold them accountable. That's all we can do as a community, what so many other communities have done to get their way. It goes back to thinking, reacting, and caring. I hope y'all enjoyed this show. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say, good or bad. I am always open to having a little bit of a debate, civil, not argued and name calling and unfriending you on Facebook and those types of things. That era is gone. We now need to heal and do the right things. It's important. And that's the only way we're going to hold people accountable and get things changed and fixed. So y'all take care. Be safe. Make sure you kick the day's ass. Don't let the day kick your ass.
Thanks for joining me on The Forgotten Oath. If you believe these conversations matter, if you believe our veterans deserve better, help us grow this mission. Hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share this episode with others who care. Every subscriber helps amplify the voices of those who served. Until next time, stay strong, stay vigilant, and never forget the oath.